A strategy model allows us to describe the organization's strategy from a number of different views. The inception of this idea probably began with the Balanced Scorecard. Back in the late 80s, the Balanced Scorecard was developed by Drs Kaplan and Norton and promoted as a way to help organizations move beyond just financial measures, to provide a broader view of how the organizations perform. The Harvard Business Review article and the book described 4 perspectives to use when looking at the performance of organizations. Now, we're going to be talking about the Balanced Scorecard as a framework, but think of that as any other organized framework for looking at performance, whether that's a Canada Quality Council structure, Baldrige, Six Sigma, Lean. They all have attributes of how they look at performance. The important common ground of these is that they go beyond the financial measures. Think of, say, a coffee cup. If that were your organization and you only looked at it from the top, it would look like a circle. But if you looked at it only from the side, it would be a rectangle. And a 3/4 view tells you it's a cylinder. No one view is necessarily correct. It depends on the application. If you want to pour something in it, maybe use the top view. To pick it up, the side view. Drink, 3/4 view. It's kind of the same with organizations. The one common view we have of organizations, of course, is the financial view. We convert everything we do into dollars and cents. The dilemma is that financial view doesn't tell us everything that there is to know about the organization. So, for example, if you were charged more for this e-learning experience, would you learn more? Probably not. The financial indicator certainly doesn't tell us whether we are doing a good job through these series or not, and whether you're learning something or not, or whether you're applying it or not. We need another view. Other views of the organization include things like the customer view or perspective. What do your customers want from the organization, and how well are you meeting those needs? The internal view. What are your internal processes and how well are they performing? And learning and growth. Now, at the time, we were working with Peter Senge at MIT when we came up with this term, and the concept came from his book, The Fifth Discipline. We're looking at how organizations learn and how organizations grow. And there are 3 basic components: competencies, culture, and strategic assets or enabling structures. It's not just a people thing, it's more than just people. And we wrote the first book, an article, describing this Balanced Scorecard like this, as sort of 4 points of a compass. And we did touch on strategy maps, but it wasn't until later that we began to truly experiment and learn about the cause and effect relationship between these perspectives. You see, in the private sector, your goal is to achieve financial success. To achieve that success, you'd better meet your customers' needs. To meet those needs, you better have the right internal processes, and to build and maintain those processes, you better have the right enablers: culture, competencies, enabling structures. And in fact, we should be able to drive and draw any strategy as a cause and effect diagram or data flow diagram across these 4 perspectives. So if you think of, say, Tim Hortons coffee, the reason that you would spend $1.50 for Tim Hortons coffee is because it meets your need as a customer. And maybe your needs are a great tasting cup of coffee, but maybe it's the right location. You want to have your hits before you go to work. Or maybe, like me, your kids play Timbits hockey and you want to support them because of how they support hockey in our communities. Or maybe it's the kids' camps that they sponsor and so forth. The net is, once they've established what the customer value equation is, if they can meet those needs, you'll spend a couple of bucks for a cup of coffee. Well, also, once I've sorted out what those customer needs are, you can begin to determine what are the internal processes that your organization needs to be successful. So in Tim Hortons' case, they not only need to know how to make a great tasting cup of coffee, but they also have to learn how to find the right location. They need to learn how to sponsor hockey arenas and Timbits hockey on a grand scale. And most importantly, they also need to learn how to run kid camps, because if something awful happened at one of those kids' camps, it would obviously reflect badly on the overall brand. Well, once I've determined what those internal processes are, I can then sort out what are the competencies, culture, and enabling structures you need to be successful. So we can take any organization strategy and draw it across these 4 perspectives. In the public sector, we take the financial perspective and drop it to the bottom of the list. So the top perspective is customer or stakeholder. Then comes internal, enablers, and financial as one of the building blocks, foundational elements. It's also important to note that just because financial is at the top of the strategy map, that does not mean it has the highest focus or highest weighting. Merely, that's the end point of your other strategic objectives. If you think of, for example, when you graduated from school, your objective was, of course, to get a job and earn some money. But if you just stood there and stared at your bank book, the money would not arrive. You have to go and make your customers happy, and if you do, your customer, in this case being your employer, they'll pay you and you'll achieve some financial success. How do you make your customer happy? Well, you need the right internal processes. You need to show up to work at time, do your job, and so forth. Well, how are you going to get those things done? Well, you need the right enablers. You need the right competencies for that job. You need the right culture, and so forth. So the net is these four perspectives in this sequence show the sequence in which those objectives are achieved and don't reflect the weighting of those objectives. We'll do that as a separate task.